Have you ever wondered if your emotions, often seen as a burden, could actually be the key to the life you've always wanted? What if you were told that your heart is a garden waiting to bloom, filled with potential, love, and strength? Welcome to Dr. Anita Phillips' The Garden Within, a book that is transforming the way we view our own hearts and emotions. If you want to discover how to cultivate the soil of your heart to unlock a more abundant and powerful life, then you've come to the right place. In this video, we'll explore every profound insight from this New York Times bestseller, which has even inspired Oprah Winfrey. This is your invitation to an emotional rebirth. And before we begin, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Here at Literary World, we bring you transformative and profound literary reviews every week. And if you're interested in the book, the link is in the description, making it easy to access this treasure trove of wisdom. Dr. Anita Phillips is a trauma therapist and influential thought leader at the intersection of mental health, faith, and culture. She completed her undergraduate studies at the prestigious University of Maryland and Regent University and furthered her knowledge with a postdoctoral fellowship at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. More than an author, Phillips is a passionate voice in connecting science and spirituality to help people reconnect with their emotions and find healing. Her book, The Garden Within, is a reflection of this journey. It blends psychology, neuroscience, and faith, offering a practical and spiritual path to cultivating our emotional well-being. The author uses her personal and professional experience to teach us that true power comes from a nurtured and cared for heart. Now, let's dive together into the key lessons of this transformative book. In The Garden Within, Phillips presents a powerful and profound analogy. The human heart is like a garden that carries within itself the capacity to flourish when properly nurtured. This inner soil harbors every emotion and experience, good or bad, like seeds that we sow daily, shaping our lives and our worldview. However, the way we have been taught to deal with our emotions often prevents us from tending this garden as we should. Too often, we have learned to view emotions as something to be controlled or ignored, as if they were merely obstacles in the way of our peace. Phillips challenges this view by asserting that true harmony and growth can only be achieved when we accept that the garden of the heart is a space where all emotions can and should coexist. Just as Jesus taught in the parable of the sower, the type of soil we cultivate in our hearts profoundly influences what we will reap in terms of emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. This soil, which houses our most intimate emotions, is the key to a full and spiritually aligned life, where personal growth occurs from the genuine acceptance of who we are. Phillips takes us on a journey of self-discovery, where learning to cultivate one's own heart is essential. She emphasizes that caring for this inner garden means accepting the complexity of our emotions, respecting both the joys and the pains we experience. After all, just as plants need light, water, and nutrients to grow, our emotions also need attention to be understood and healed. This process is not about suppressing negative feelings, but about allowing them to exist alongside positive feelings, understanding that they are an intrinsic part of our journey. Phillips invites us to change our focus. Instead of seeing our emotions as something to be fixed, why not see them as an extension of who we are? Caring for the heart, she argues, is like caring for a garden. It requires patience, dedication, and the willingness to deal with some emotional weeds that insist on growing. It is constant work, but it is this process that allows us to genuinely flourish and achieve the emotional well-being we seek. For Phillips, emotions are not just mental states. They are deeply connected to the physical sensations we experience in our bodies. The author shares anecdotes from her therapeutic practice where clients have discovered this direct connection between what they feel emotionally and what they experience physically. One of the most striking examples involves Brian, who, upon reliving a painful memory, noticed the manifestation of this sadness as a feeling of tightness in his chest and a heaviness in his head. Phillips teaches that by paying attention to these bodily signals, we can recognize the interdependence between mind and body and, consequently, learn to better respect and care for both. This holistic approach not only helps us deal with emotional pain, but also teaches us that the body carries memories and stories that have not always been verbalized. Phillips invites us to rediscover the body as an essential component of emotional healing, where each sensation is a clue to understanding our experiences and finding relief. Sadness, often labeled as a negative and even unwanted emotion, is, for Phillips, a feeling that plays a crucial role in the healing process. In one of the stories she shares, we meet Keisha, a woman who lived through years of loneliness and shame, believing that her sadness was a reflection of spiritual failure. She thought that by feeling this way, she was failing in her devotion and connection with God. However, the therapeutic journey with Phillips revealed that Keisha's sadness was an authentic response to her experiences, and that embracing it was essential to her well-being. The author teaches us that sadness is a natural and significant part of the healing process, and by denying it, we are only postponing the inevitable. Feeling sadness allows us to access deeper layers of our being and make room for true emotional release. Phillips emphasizes that embracing this pain is not a sign of weakness, but rather a doorway to renewal and emotional growth. Anger is one of the most stigmatized and misunderstood emotions, but Phillips shows that it is essential to our emotional balance. She tells the story of Michelle, a woman who, after surviving sexual abuse, had to face the return of intense feelings of anger when she saw her abuser being honored at a family event. Michelle, fearing the consequences of expressing her anger, repressed it, but this only intensified the negative impact on her life. However, with Phillips' support, she was able to recognize and express her feelings, setting clear boundaries and protecting her well-being. The author explains that anger, when recognized and well-directed, can be a catalyst for positive change, whether through assertiveness or redefining our relationships. Repressing anger is like ignoring weeds in a garden. Eventually, they stifle growth. Releasing anger in a healthy way is caring for the heart and body, allowing them to flourish in freedom. Heart care is an ongoing and essential task that requires both attention and self-love. Phillips emphasizes that, just as a gardener takes time to observe the growth of each plant, we need to invest time and attention in understanding our own emotions. This process is more than just a simple practice of self-care. It is a commitment to our well-being. The author reminds us that we often carry unresolved emotions that, if left untreated, can affect our peace and balance. She teaches us that heart care is like an act of constant cultivation, where we need to prune, water, and fertilize our emotions. By doing so, we allow our positive emotions to flourish and our emotional well-being to grow, building an internal environment of peace and growth. For Phillips, spirituality plays a fundamental role in the emotional cultivation of the heart. In The Garden Within, she presents faith as a powerful tool that helps us navigate difficult emotions, offering perspective and strength. She argues that by recognizing Jesus as a figure who was not afraid to express his emotions, we learn that emotional vulnerability is not a weakness, but a necessary human aspect. In the life of Jesus, we see examples of sadness, compassion, and indignation, and it is through this model that Phillips encourages us to live our own faith authentically. Integrating spirituality into our emotional process allows us to find a greater purpose and understand that each emotion, no matter how challenging, is part of our connection to the divine. Phillips teaches us that being vulnerable is actually an act of courage and personal empowerment. Society often leads us to believe that showing fragility is a sign of weakness. But in The Garden Within, the author subverts this idea. Vulnerability, she says, is what allows us to connect with our essence and with others in a true way. Accepting our emotions and embracing vulnerability are fundamental steps to living a fulfilling life. Phillips explains that inner strength comes when we are able to embrace our feelings without shame, and it is in this acceptance that we find emotional freedom. When we allow ourselves to be authentic, we cultivate an environment of self-acceptance that enriches both our inner garden and the relationships around us. Trauma is an experience that scars the heart, but according to Phillips, it can also become a source of strength. By facing our traumas with courage, we allow the wounds to become fertilizer for our growth. In her therapeutic practice, Phillips has seen countless patients who, after a process of deep healing, were able to discover an inner resilience previously unknown. She teaches us that trauma, when approached with love and acceptance, becomes an opportunity for self-knowledge and personal transformation. Overcoming trauma is like revitalizing a garden that has suffered from the elements, but, with care and patience, blossoms again. Phillips ends her work with an inspiring message. The heart, like a garden, reflects all the life experiences we carry. This process of care is an ongoing journey, where each emotion we experience, each trauma we face, and each joy we feel adds layers of meaning to our being. Cultivating the heart is recognizing that life is full of ups and downs, and that each of these moments contributes to our personal growth. The journey of self-discovery, as described by Phillips, has no final destination. It is a journey that requires patience and presence, where we learn to accept that growth is not a linear process, but rather a constant cycle of planting, watering, and harvesting. Each challenge we face, each emotion we feel, is like a season that shapes the garden of our heart. There are times of harvest, when we celebrate victories and moments of peace, but there are also times of pruning, when we need to confront our own pain and let go of parts of ourselves that no longer serve our purpose. Phillips emphasizes that, just as a garden needs daily care, our heart also requires constant attention. We cannot simply expect it to flourish without taking time to tend to the roots of our emotions. This continuous cultivation creates a deeper connection with who we are, and as we know ourselves more deeply, we come to value each moment of our journey. Phillips reminds us that every step we take towards self-acceptance is an act of love and respect for our history and for everything we have experienced. She ends the book with a call to action, encouraging the reader to see their own life as a garden that can be beautiful and fertile, even with its imperfections. For Phillips, the true meaning of a full life lies in learning to care for this inner garden, to love each emotion we cultivate and to celebrate each small victory in the process of self-discovery. And, just like at the end of each cycle, the author inspires us to start over, to plant new seeds and to nourish our hearts with the hope of a lighter and more genuine tomorrow. After diving into this inspiring content, we want to hear from you. How have you been taking care of your inner garden? Leave a comment and share your opinion, because your voice is very important to us and enriches this exchange. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it and share it with friends who can also benefit from these lessons. Thank you very much for staying with us until now. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now is the time. Click the subscribe button so you don't miss our next book reviews. See you in the next video, where we will continue exploring the incredible world of books. See you then.